I had an ex who got pepper sprayed and he like ripped his shirt off and got even angrier and they had to taser him.
Wait, what context did he get pepper?
Yeah.
He was at a bar. He got in a fight with some local townies and it escalated to like a whole bar fight. The cops came. He exploded. He hulked up instead. And then they had to tase the shit out of him.
Were you dating him at the time?
Oh, we were engaged. Yeah. But our like first date kind of was to a Padres game. We get into the stadium and he's like, I'm going to get a hot dog and some beers. And I was like, okay, I'll meet you back at the seat. Never saw him again.
Wait, this is the man
I ended up marrying. Yes, I married this guy.
Wait, is this first date?
This is like our first date. And I know. And wait,
What the fuck?
wait, I waited so long. I watched the fireworks show after the game and I was like, maybe he'll. Well, it turns out he got so drunk he ran out of the stadium and got hit by a car. And then he got arrested.
God.
This is the most depressing episode ever.
But have you? Yes. But have you ever?
Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Gossip Without Borders. Today's video is about worst first dates. Have you ever had a bad first date? I know I have. I'm sure that some of you have as well. But let's not waste any more time. Let's take a look at these videos and I'll see you later in the video and I'll give you my feedback.
I cannot make this up. I cannot make this up. Imagine, first date with a man. You hit it off. Great energy. Date runs long. And you have a graduation party to get to. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, you want to come with me to my homegirl's graduation party? He's like, okay, yeah, sure. But I don't want to show up empty-handed, so we stop at the Target. Another green flag, because we've been hitting it off. Okay, great. We stop at Target. He gets her a card. We go to the graduation party. I introduce him to my friend. Cool. We go to my car. We're getting into my car. He's saying like, oh yeah, can you drop me off at the mall? Da-da-da-da, like whatever. Fine, because he allegedly Ubered an hour to get to me. Because he lives far out, not in the city. This man gets in my car. All of a sudden, a woman comes up out of the blue. I don't know where this woman was. She comes up and she yanks open my passenger side door. She's like, what the F are you doing? Get up. Come with me right now. Come with me right now. Get up. Get up. You're coming with me. At first, I thought she was joking. And at first, I thought it was like she saw him from afar, thought he was fine. Came into the car, was like, you're coming with me. You're coming with me. Because he was just like, chill, chill, chill. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cute. Like, he's fine. Okay, period, sis. But, like, not too much. But then she gets rowdy. She's like, get out the car. Get out the car. And yanks this full-grown size man and yanks him out the car. So I'm like, oh, y'all know each other. Takes him out the car. Bella, my car, is here. Her car is here. I'm T-boned in. I cannot move. There's a car in front of me. So all I can do is sit and look in my rear view at her beating. Just beating his ass. Just beating his ass. And I'm like, I turn my music down so I can hear what's being said. I can't hear nothing, but just going. And I'm like, what the heck? I didn't have the word. Like, I didn't have the words that happened so fast, and I cannot move. So I'm sitting here, waiting for her to finish his beating. Finally, they start to back up. They pull up beside me. I'm looking like this. And he goes. And they drive off. And I just didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Because clearly that's your girl. We talked about cheating. We talked about red flags. We talked about green flags. He had passed a lot of, like, he had a good head on his shoulders, I thought. We talked about cheating in 30 minutes. We talked about emotional versus physical cheating. And she picked him up and yanked him out of the passenger side. And they drove off, and then he texted me, What are you doing? What am I doing? I'm coping. I'm done with men. Especially light skins. I can't.
One time I was talking to this guy on Bumble and he wanted to go on a first date and he wanted to go on a hike. And I know that's like a new thing now that people want to go on a hike and don't want to get a drink, don't want to do that. I was like, okay, that's fine. But I don't want to go on a hike. I don't want to go in the middle of nowhere in the woods with someone that I don't know. I was like, well, how about a park or something? He's like, no, I want to go on a hike. And I was like, okay, you're going to go on a hike by yourself then. I'm not going into the woods or into the middle of nowhere with someone I don't even know, sir. And he was like, all right, well, we can go for a drive then. I'm like, I don't want to go for a drive. If I didn't want to go on a hike, I don't want to go for a drive. I do not want to be alone with you, sir. That is not what we're going to do on a first date. Hello, people are crazy. So then he was like super pushy about it and I thought that was weird. And then he was like, well, that's fine. We can go to this park then. I'll pick you up. What's your address? And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not giving you my address. You're a stranger. And he was like, why? I want to be a gentleman. Why won't you let me pick you up? And I was like, you can be a gentleman in a million ways and you being super pushy right now is not the way to be a gentleman. I am not giving you my address. And he was like super aggressive about it. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to block you. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. So I blocked him on Bumble. Now he didn't have my full name. He didn't have my phone number. All of a sudden I get this Facebook message and he was like, hey, sorry, I'm in the CVS parking lot. Someone pulled up next to me. He was like, hey, why did you block me? And I was like, bro, this is why I blocked you. First of all, you are super aggressive. You want to meet in the middle of nowhere. Second of all, you want my address. You're like, want to pick me up, whatever. And now you found me on Facebook. I do not know how. Like, I blocked you and unless you had my images saved and then you Google image search me after, like, why did you even have my picture? Like, how could you even find me after Bumble? So then I blocked him on Facebook and he finds me on Instagram. And I was like, bro, you are boo, 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 like setting up all sorts of alarms. So then I got back on Bumble and I like reported him to Bumble and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. He seems super creepy. He's super pushy about a first date. He wants to meet a first date in the middle of nowhere. He wants to meet in the woods. He wants to go for a drive, whatever. Now he's found me on all of these different forms of social media. So I blocked him. I blocked him here. I blocked him on all forms of social media that I can. And then I didn't hear from him again, but I was like, this is a little sketchy. So I have the guy's like information and I am always like watching the news to see if maybe he pops up as like a serial killer or something. But I think I might post him on one of those Are We Dating the Same Guys and just be like, hey, alert, alert, alarms, like watch out for this dude because he wants to meet you in the middle of nowhere, wants your address, and then he gets really angry if you don't give it to him.
First date horror stories.
I went on a date. This guy asked me out on a date maybe 20 times. Finally, I was like, sure. We literally get probably one of every appetizer, and then like we each get an entree, maybe a third entree just to like try it out. And then he's like, it's time for dessert. Let's like pick. I'm like, honestly, I am so stuffed. I've never been more full. Like, I am good.
Yeah.
He's like, no, let's get the dessert.
It's like, eat it.
I'm like, okay. And then he gets a fucking phone call. He does not come back 20 minutes. And I'm like, I don't know what the phone call's about. So I get up and I go outside. Quite literally gone. I have not seen or heard from that man since. He's blocked me on every social media. The bill was literally probably $1,600.
So, did you pay it?
Yes, I had to pay it.
What's his name?
His name is Justin.
What's his last name?
Nick's already pulling out his phone.
Here's why you should always look up the guy you're going on a date with before you go on the date. One time I was out with my friends and I see this guy, really cute, looking at me. He ends up coming up to me and he asks me to go to dinner. Go to this great dinner. He's asking me a ton of like get to know you questions. He asked me what my job is. I'm a photographer. It's like, oh wow, that's so cool. Just to see my work, etc. As the dinner went on, he started to ask me more questions where I felt like he already knew the answer to. So I'm like, maybe he just looked me up on Instagram before or whatever. I go home and I'm FaceTiming with my best friend and I'm telling her about the date and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look him up now. So I find his Instagram and as soon as I see the username, my stomach sinks. I'm like, I've seen this username before. I click on the messages. He has messaged me like 45 times in the past 5 years, responding to stories about my photography, my friends, everything he asked me questions about like he didn't know the answer to. I don't know why he couldn't just tell me that he was following me before, but I got super creeped out.
I just had the worst first date of my life. I figure I'm just gonna tell you what happened and then we're gonna try and work our way back from there. My date invited myself along with 2 other women so that he could speed up the process of finding his perfect 3-way. I met this guy on a dating app and I feel like by all reasonable measures, he was pretty much just your average guy. Literally nothing in his profile could have prepared me for what was to come. We agreed to meet at this Italian restaurant that's about 15 minutes away from my house. So I show up in my Uber And I'm probably like 10 minutes early because I just usually show up early to things. I don't know. When I get there, he's standing outside the restaurant and I recognize him from his profile. So at least he's not a catfish. You know, we say hi to each other and then he's just like, okay, let's go inside and grab our table. He made a reservation, so the table was ready right when we got there. So at least that was nice. They bring us to our table and they seat us at this four top, which honestly isn't that weird if you think about it. We're really only sitting there for like maybe 2 minutes before this girl walks up, who I think at the time is just a waitress. But no, and you already know what's coming. She kind of just looks at me funny and then introduces herself just casually, and I'm like, oh hi, like I'm Megan. And as she's sitting down, the next girl walks up. So all the girls are just introducing each other and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? He's just sitting there like completely fucking fine. And then she goes, oh, so like, how do you know so-and-so? As in the guy. I'm just not gonna say his name because honestly, you know what? I should fucking say his name. Matthew. It was Matthew. And I'm like, oh, I actually don't really. This is our first date. So naturally, my next question is, oh, well, how do you know Matthew? He looks me dead in the eyes and goes, I thought this was our first date. Yeah. I just thought that these other two girls were friends that he knew that were around. Maybe he invited. I don't know. People are weird. But no, he'd scheduled this date at the same time with all three of us to meet at this place. And why, you might ask? Well, you're probably not asking because I already told you he was trying to speed up his process of finding the perfect three-way. We all left.
Last week, somebody I know went on quite possibly the worst date I've ever heard of. So this woman I used to work with, she gets to the restaurant, sits down, right? Looks at the door, in comes her date. Date strolls over, apart from the fact he's walking with another woman. Now the woman I know thought, oh, they might have just recognised each other on the way in or something. No, he sits down at the table, she pulls up a chair, sits with them. Now for the video, we're just going to call the guy John. And nice to meet you, John, except I thought it was just me and you. Who's this? John then goes on to explain that this is his wife. Oh yeah, sorry John, I forgot that was a normal thing. Yeah, nice to meet you, lovely. So the reason that John's brought his lovely wife on this date without telling the person I know is because they want the person I know to join in with their marriage. Didn't mention that on the Tinder profile, did you, John? The person I know obviously said yes, why wouldn't you? Now this got me thinking, I want to make a series where you guys message me on Instagram the worst first dates you've ever been on. I'll make a video about the worst ones and then we'll rank them on a leaderboard of who's been on the worst date.
New fear unlocked for anyone dating. I was told the most insane story over the weekend. Of course, I have to share it with you. This story is about a friend of a friend of a friend. So I don't know who this is. Sorry if this is you. So this girl goes on a Tinder date and they vibe, get on really well, have a really good date. So she goes home with him and she spends the night. She obviously liked him and they had a bit of a connection and he seemed normal. Then a couple of days after the date, she starts to feel a little bit not right down there. So she goes to the doctor, obviously thinking, this guy's giving me something. So the doctor does some tests and gives her some antibiotics. A few days later, she gets a phone call from the doctor and he says, you need to come in ASAP. Obviously, she freaks out. Like, I would freak out. Like, what is this? So she goes back to the doctor. He sits her down and says, we need the details, the name, the number, the address, everything of the person that you slept with. You would literally be thinking, that's my dog. You would literally be thinking, what the hell is going on, right? So the doctor explains, we have found out what's going on down there and it's not your standard. And he proceeds to explain to her that she has bacteria down there and that bacteria can only be found one place. This is where my jaw dropped. That bacteria is only found inside dead bodies. I'll let you process that for just a second. So yeah, the guy had obviously with a dead body and then with her. I literally don't think I would get over this. So obviously the police got involved. He was investigated. Turns out that he did work somewhere that had access to dead bodies. I'm guessing a morgue. And he was arrested. And I think he's in prison. There are so many fears about dating and this has just added to the list quite high up.
Hey everyone, Well, if you've reached this far, thank you for looking at all of the video, which is my first one. We didn't want it to go well. But when we see the first red flag, I think it's just time to remove ourselves from that situation, because otherwise it's just too much energy. We could focus that energy on somebody else. So once you see that first red flag, let's move. Let's try and end that date. And if you don't get the red flag until after the date, like the last video, I think we need to look at who we're attracting. You know, if there's a theme where we seem to attract the same type of people, then we need to rethink and relook where we are meeting people, or look at the personalities we're attracting and try something different. I mean, what are your thoughts? I hope you enjoyed the video, and please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll meet you down in the comments.